Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story in which our OP, stuck with the grueling job of being the sole cook at a military outpost, decides to flip the script on the officers who treated him like a machine. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Malicious compliance through Army commands and ensuing chaos and hunger. This is a story from my time in my country's Army, Greece. After I joined the Army for my mandatory 9-month service, I was forcibly given the specialty of the cook. After some surprisingly harsh training, they sent me to an outpost where I had to do 2 daily services, one as a cook and one as an area observer, while everyone else did 1 to 0 services for about 50 days nonstop. That meant I was on my feet from 6 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. every single day while getting 3.5 hours of sleep every night. Nobody helped me in any way. I didn't have nearly enough time to prepare the food properly. They claimed it was not protocol to help the cook and nobody cared, so naturally I got extremely tired and pissed off. One day, I dared to protest my situation and also report some problems with the kitchen, lack of supplies, and the oven itself, and was told to shut up, stop complaining, and do my job. So I decided to comply with the shut up and don't complain policy. What they didn't know is that I had found a trick to turn the oven on. It looked fine, but the food wouldn't cook at all. The next day, I was told to prepare a stuffed vegetable dish for 12 people, tomatoes and peppers stuffed with rice and minced meat. I put it in the oven and waited 4 hours to not be cooked. I casually served the raw food, which had become mushy and rancid because it was summertime. The look on everyone's face when they tried to eat the first bite was absolutely priceless. They immediately snapped and started freaking out, yelling and screaming in anger like this was a common thing, even though I'd never failed a dish before and those arrogant, selfish jerks ate like kings every day. I maliciously smiled and told them that I lacked half of my supplies and the recipe was wildly incomplete while the oven was malfunctioning. Word reached the captain, who also freaked out, but I told him that it was he who commanded me to shut up about the food problems. He said my failure should be reported, and I agreed. I immediately called my unit and reported that I was being mistreated, overworked, sleepless, and ignored for 43 consecutive days, so this resulted to my failure. The next day, I heard the captain was reprimanded severely by our colonel commander for the crappy situation in his outpost. Of course, the next 3 days, I did the exact same thing, and I starved the B-words to insanity. Afterwards, they were begging me to help me out with the food preparations, but I refused, since I complied with "it's not protocol to help the cook" policy, which they claimed in the first place, and kept feeding them disgusting, tasteless food under the excuse of a broken oven. They called the unit and cried that I am holding them hostage with the food and I should be removed. The day I was removed 1 week later was the best day of my life. I haven't regretted anything and 100% would do it again. Never ever mess with the cook. Why do people like learning this lesson the hard way? And our second story. Karen accuses me of stealing from her store. Cast, K.E., Karen employee. Me, metal enthusiast. This happened about 6 years ago before the pandemic, so no masks, social distancing, etc. I'm a male, early 30s, late 20s at the time of this incident, who's a proud metalhead and therefore dresses accordingly. Long hair, beard, black shirts with band logos on them. You get the picture. I'm a regular customer at the local branch of a certain pharmacy/drugstore chain with 3 letters in its name. I'm friendly with many of the employees there to the point where they really don't have to verify my name, date of birth, etc., even though they still do because required, and I often find myself engaging in conversations with the pharmacy staff while they fill my prescriptions. Now, this store allows you to purchase non-pharmacy items at the pharmacy counter. So on this particular day, I picked out some items that I needed, brought them to the pharmacy counter, and paid for them along with my prescription medications. I exchanged my usual small talk with the pharmacist, get my receipt, put everything in my reusable shopping bag, and walk out the door. My car is parked a short distance away from the door, Right as I'm reaching my hand out to unlock the car door, I hear it. The unmistakable cry of the Karen. K.E. Excuse me? I turn around and see an employee who I've seen before, sitting out in front of the store taking a smoke break, but have never interacted with. She was an older woman, probably early 60s, had somewhat of a Karen-esque hairdo, and was looking at me as if I was the scum of the earth. Me. Yes? K.E. Did you pay for those? Me. I did. Why? K.E. Well, I didn't see you at the checkout line. Did you pay for these at the pharmacy? Me. Yes? Without even asking, she starts going through my bag looking for the receipt. I think it would have been obvious that I had been at the pharmacy counter given the multiple bags of prescriptions with my name on them. She eventually finds the receipt and looks at it to verify that all the other items in the bag were on the receipt. K.E. Next time you purchase something at the pharmacy counter, you need to show the receipt to one of the cashiers at the checkout line. We've had major problems with shoplifters. Have a nice day. She turns around and leaves. Me. Yes, ma'am. Slightly irritated, I get in my car and drive home. I'm pretty sure she made up that rule about showing the receipt to the cashier as you were leaving the store right then and there. For one thing, this was not one of those stores where an employee stands by the door with a marker and checks your receipt as you're walking out. The checkout lines are near the entrance, but they usually only have one register open, so the cashier at the register is often too busy ringing someone up to pay attention to anyone entering or especially exiting the store. This would mean that in order to follow her rule, I'd have to stand at the end of the line and wave my receipt until the cashier notices me, which could potentially take a long time, as often there's someone in the line who's having some sort of issue with their credit card, and the cashier's too busy helping them to notice. Also, if I had taken something from the store without paying for it, I'm pretty sure an alarm would have gone off. My only guess as to why this lady thought I was a thief was because of my appearance. Like I said, I have long hair and a beard, and she must have thought I was some sort of punk who liked to steal things. Either that or she mistook me for a homeless person. I don't know why she suddenly decided to accuse me of stealing when she's seen me there before, and like I said, I'm friendly with a lot of the other employees. In any case, I never saw this lady again after this incident. What's interesting to note is that since this incident, the pharmacy introduced the option of having your receipt texted or emailed to you as opposed to printed. Also, they recently added self-checkout lanes, so on the rare occasions where I go to that store to get something other than my prescription meds, I check out through there now. Fortunately, there's a loud computerized voice that'll announce to the world that you opted to have your receipt emailed to you. I agree with you that she probably equated your appearance with being a thief. Or maybe she just didn't like the band shirt you were wearing that day. And our last story. Next door neighbor trying to claim our land as his. We've just bought our first property and the back of our garden isn't fenced off, so we've been trying to figure out the exact boundaries. Our land registry shows that we own part of the back of our neighbor's garden, and naturally we're planning to get a fence put up and claim the land back as ours. The neighbor next door, however, isn't too happy about this. He's only lived there since 2018, but he's already talking about getting solicitors involved, claiming that it's been like this for many years, so it should stay that way. He even tried throwing out some legal jargon to make it sound like we'd lose if we tried to reclaim the land. Luckily, my friend's a lawyer, and he told me straight up that the neighbor would need proof that he's had uninterrupted use of the land for at least 10 years, and without us objecting, to have any real claim. Plus, his land registry also clearly shows that the part of the garden we're talking about is not his. One afternoon, I decided to be neighborly and went over to try and talk things out. I figured we could settle this in a friendly manner. As soon as I brought up the issue, he interrupted me with, "Why don't you just F off and mind your own business? It's my garden now, whether you like it or not." The audacity. He stood there looking smug as if his little outburst was going to scare me away. In the next breath, after telling me to F off, he completely flipped the script and asked if he could buy the land off of us. You know what? Since it's been mine for so long, why don't you just sell it to me? Name your price. But don't think I'm paying too much for a few extra feet of dirt. It was clear to me then that he knew the land was legally ours, but was just trying to throw around scare tactics. I stood my ground and calmly told him, "I don't think so, mate. I'll be putting up the fence, and if you've got a problem with it, go ahead and call your solicitor. We both know what's in the land registry." He just huffed and stormed back into his house, clearly frustrated that his bluff wasn't working. Update. A couple of days later, I was outside marking the boundaries where the fence would go when the neighbor came stomping over, looking even angrier than before. "Oi," he yelled, "what do you think you're doing?" I looked at him calmly and replied, "Just marking out where the fence is going. Like I said, it's our land and we're putting up the fence." He stepped right up to me, almost chest to chest, and spat out, "I told you this is my land. I've been using it for years. You can't just take it back." I smiled slightly and said, "Well, actually, I can. I've already spoken to a lawyer, and you don't have a legal claim, so unless you want to involve your solicitor and lose more than just your temper, I suggest you step back." At this point, he started getting desperate. "Fine, but if you put that fence up, I'm going to build one right next to it, and it's going to be taller. Let's see how you like that." I couldn't help but laugh a little. Build whatever you want on your side of the property line. Just make sure it's not on my land again, and we won't have a problem. He threw his hands up in frustration and stormed off, muttering under his breath. A few days later, I was out with the contractors getting the fence installed. The neighbor stood in his yard, arms crossed, glaring at us the entire time. I was expecting more confrontation, but he didn't say a word. He just watched as the fence went up, looking like he was about to explode. When the job was finished, I walked over to the fence on my side and gave him a nod. "All done. Now we can both enjoy our own gardens in peace." He didn't respond, just walked back into his house, slamming the door behind him. Later that evening, I heard some banging and saw him measuring his own yard. It looked like he was getting ready to build the giant fence he'd been threatening me with. But that's his problem, not mine. Now I won't have to deal with him using my land as his own anymore. Feels good to stand your ground. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.